everyone, and welcome to our podcast. Today, we are going to talk about educational evaluation. And the members of our podcast are Erika Solórzano, Valentina Castro, Salome Castro, Valentina Ponce, and I'm Ania Adriano. And we are the group number 2. Hi everyone, in this podcast we will discuss the topics from units 1 and 2. We are going to talk about some experiences, give examples, and give some concepts. Sometimes students think that evaluation is about exam or grade, but evaluation means more than that. It helps teachers understand how students learn and how teaching can improve. So that's why it's really important to know how to use evaluation because that helps us to plan classes and get students learn better. So let's start this podcast.
Okay, so girls, let's start with this simple question. What comes to your mind when you hear the word evaluation? What do you think?
Honestly, the first thing I think about is stress because sometimes students um, immediately connect evaluation with pressure, especially when they have many exams in one week. Yeah, in my case, when I hear the word evaluation, I think of different methods that teachers uses when doing a class or during the whole teacher learning process because there are many different kind of ways to assess students' knowledge. And also, I agree with Erica because I think that in the perspective of a student, they think of pressure, of fear, of having being scared, or maybe having a bad grade when doing tests. And the first thing they think is, what if I don't make it? What if I get a bad grade? I don't want to lose this subject, for example. So this is really present during these uh, actors of this teaching and learning process. Okay, so for me, evaluation it helps students improve and learn a learning process in in the learning. So it not just only grade at the end of the semester. So with evaluation, increase motivation and confidence in students. Yes. Yes, when I think in evaluation, I don't think just in the fact of grading. I think in the thing of teachers encouraging the students to make the best effort to learn and also to improve their class. The motivation. Right. Yes.
So we all agree that evaluation is not only about checking mistakes or get I don't know
But great.
bad grades, but evaluation also helps a teacher
When
identify the strengths and difficulties the students.
yeah, for example, teachers can evaluate through projects, games, participations, presentations, or teamwork.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to evaluate because in that way students doesn't feel like stress or
Maybe the pressure.
or maybe they don't feel they
Nervous. Nervous. Because when they feel nervous, they can just, because they are nervous, they can't really think of like the ideas or what they study.
Yeah, for example, I remember one time when I was at the college, one teacher he evaluated us like we went up with Kahoot, and I remember that everyone felt happy and not stressed because it was like a
Fun.
it was like a fun way.
It
Yeah.
was like a game, so they didn't feel like that pressure of a test. So I think that also these having these kind of assessment methods helps
Yeah.
teacher to plan the classes and focuses on the real like strategies
Yeah.
to gain
To
improve this process. Because haven't you ever think of these a action, reflection, in action?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
Yes, of course.
And I think that's really, really good because you first make in action, which is like teaching, and then you reflect after your class. What were those strengths? What were those weaknesses? What is the next step you are going to do to improve the class, to make the class be more like better for students? And then the action
You actually
will be putting in practice what you conclude. Yeah, what you reflect.
students when they motivate.
Yeah, when they feel motivated, and there's just this pressure that don't exist. So I think that's like
Yes, and I think that's the point of the evaluation. The students may get motivated to study and strengthen their abilities and skills.
yes.
Now, let's talk about something that students confuse, like evaluation, grading, measurement. These concepts are related, but they're not only the same. What do you think about these concepts?
I think many people confuse this word because it have exactly the same meaning. So, however, when students, especially students, focus on grades and exams
Yeah.
during classes.
Yes, but it is important to identify that they are not the same. For example, measurement is the number, the numerical grades that the teacher had at the end of a period or a class. And what do you think is
Grading.
grading?
Grading is the final score or qualification. For example, a B or 10 over 0 over 0, or for example 9 over 10. That's grading. Yeah, and if we only focus the number, we don't understand how the students can learn better.
Yes, that's a really interesting topic because it's really important. Like, for example, not only focusing on numbers or grading, but there's more than that. For example,
Yeah. For example, personally, I prefer when teachers explain what was our mistake or something like that, and not only giving the grade, because I think that in that way we are not going to improve that, to improve in what
our classes,
our classes. Yeah.
students might be confused on what were they mistake if they don't receive this.
Yes, for this reason, teachers explain feedback to students for a better learning process.
Yes, totally. I think that is really important because you can focus on your
Yes,
abilities.
it focuses on analyzing the results and helping students improve during this process.
Yes, it's really important.
Because we know that the evaluation should be holistic, systematic, and flexible, and there are three types of evaluation that are the summative, the formative, and the diagnostic. What do you think is the most important in the learning process?
So personally, I think formative evaluation is one of the most useful type because students receive feedback and can improve little by little after at the end evaluation.
And also that the formative assessment is that type of assessment evaluate the whole process, not just
Not
the
just
time.
one moment, but it's like during the whole. I also agree with that. But there's also to focus on the importance that the diagnostic and the summative evaluation could have to teachers because, for example, at the diagnostic assessment, we can see how much knowledge do the students have at the beginning of this learning, teaching and learning process. And I think that it's really helpful to plan classes after that.
Yeah, about the diagnostic evaluation, I think that it is a tool that teachers can use for understand level and which aspects needs to improve during this process. And also, I think that it's important to talk about the self evaluation because in that way, students can focus on their own learning and on their own process. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important because as a students, we should know what to improve and how to improve in order to um, self-evaluate us and reflect about what do I need to to improve that or something like that.
Like focus on their
Yes.
weaknesses. For example, what my mistakes were.
Yes.
And that's a reflection process. So students are part of the same process of teaching and learning.
Yes, I think this is the best way to understand how the students learn during the process, and obviously give other strategies for that the learning uh, can improve. Yeah, what do you think?
Day by
And,
day.
and also the and also we have the peer evaluation.
Ah, yes.
Yes, I think that evaluation is important because you can talk with your partner, and in that way, that person can help you, and you can help
Them.
them.
Yes. Like a
Yeah.
collaborative work,
Yes,
which is really important. For example, what Vygotsky says that students learn better by learning with other
Interaction.
peers, interaction. Yes,
Yes.
the social cultural theory. Yeah, that's an approach that is really helpful.
Okay, girls, so now I'm going to talk about three methods: attitudinal, procedimental, and conceptual. What did you think about these methods?
I think that first let's talk about the conceptual methods. It's related about skills and action during the process that the student has more strategies. In this way, the students can improve their learning. Yeah, and also we need to know that the conceptual method is about theories, concepts, grammar,
And it's also fundamental to know what are the strategies or the techniques to assess the conceptual evaluation. For example, it could be through like quizzes and like tests. But there's also a way the teacher can like innovate the way he can assess these methods. Like the conceptual could be assessed also with not only question but also maybe with participation of role plays because students can like if they understand a concept they will do some like dialogues for example the concept with no problem. So in this way teacher can observe if they are retaining the idea that he's trying to explain. But there's also the another type of method, which is like the procedimental. Like
Yes, and I think it is the most important for me, the most important method for evaluate because you can see how is the student learning, and you can make corrections and improve their learning through correction as well. And it's important because the student knows how to solve problems, and yeah, improve.
Yeah, if the students are not learning effectively, teachers can analyze their strategies and make change.
Yeah. Also, I think that it is important to take account into that the in the conceptual method, it's not about memorize that, because we are talking that conceptual method evaluate the concepts. Yeah, so maybe students can confuse and think that conceptual is about memorize, but it's not about that.
Yes, and also conceptual methods. Teachers can um, can yes give instruction and learning students through quizzes, exams, tests, and others.
And I wanted to say also that the, for example, within this, that you, as you said, not it's not only about memorizing, but it's about making students reflecting and make reflections. Like for example, using the theory of the Vygotsky, like which was about making students construct their own knowledge about how they interpret the information, like making students gain the ability to think, to be reflective, and not only like memorizing, because we are not talking about traditional methods, for example, which was about memorizing and it was like teacher center. But we are talking about like making this evaluation process a tool for students to be part of their knowledge as well.
Now let's talk about the procedural method. Procedure.
Procedimental contents. And I think this method is very important for learning because students can demonstrate their knowledge during this process, like their abilities, and obviously uh, focus in the participation during the class, like presentations, games, like quizzes. Yeah,
And also the feedback that the teacher should
yeah,
make to the students to make their learning more reinforced,
meaningful as
meaningful
well.
as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
as we talked about that
It's useful.
before, the feedback is like fundamental to this process of like assessment. Really important.
For example, in a language class, students can make conversations, for example, role plays. In that way, they can improve their own knowledge through conversations and, as I said before,
Interaction more
interact with each other.
with each other. No, I think we talked like too much on the process, but like abilities that we're talking. But there's also important to make mentions of the attitudinal process of how can students gain this. Like, why is this method of attitudinal so important? Why do you think that's important to apply this kind of assessment, like the attitude?
I think the attitude is really important
Really important.
because in that way we can evaluate the values, the
Behavior.
behavior of their students, and also focus on that. not
their
not only on grades or
exactly
something
or
like
the
that,
knowledge.
or the knowledge.
implement this tool also.
It's important.
I think aptitudinal education is important because it's not focused on a knowledge. So yes, it is my personal opinion.
It's okay. It's okay because they can focus on behavior, attitudes,
And values
And vibes. Yes.
Students will be aware
and
of
how
the
interact
understand-
with others, students.
understand the importance.
Yes, and they
Reflect on
they reflect about the activities and how they behave with the students and the teacher.
work together.
Work together.
And many students learn each other.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And also like helping each other is important. Like they will be good at working in groups. Students learn by doing activities and practicing them. Yeah. So implementing the attitudinal assessment will make students maybe be more aware that their attitudes and the way they behavior is important. Yeah, it helps develop critical thinking. Yes, yes, solving problems. Yes, yes, totally.
And also we can have the three types we can apply the three types at the same time, and I think that is important.
And talking about how would you implement them in the teaching and learning process? How can we really like do it? That
First of all, I think we can explain the task to the
yes.
students, the concepts,
Yes.
the grammar, tenses that they are going to use for this activity, for example. And then we can evaluate how they do all this activity, how they develop all the tasks, and at the end we can evaluate and observe uh, how they act with other students, if they work in groups, if they are uh, getting well with others.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, and also you can apply their knowledge in real situations.
Yes.
This is the best way that students can learn better. Like adding the context of their own country, for example, in Ecuador, like that makes knowledge make feel like more meaningful to them because they are comparing the situations to what happens in the real world.
So, girls, I think this session has been so meaningful, useful, and very interesting to know how functions the evaluation during the process of the learning and the teaching. What do you think?
Yeah, it also helps teachers understand students' learnings and which aspects the teachers can improve during this process.
Yeah, today we discussed the concepts of evaluation, the difference between evaluation, grading, and measurement. I think that we learned a lot today, and
By sharing our opinions, experiences, and also I think we understood better what would we do if applying any of these concepts that we learned today. For example, Salome also thought that was really useful, this discussion.
So and also we learn about evaluation should guide and improve students.
Yeah, they help the students learn through practice
And
think,
reflection.
and reflection, working in groups. Yeah.
and also that evaluation should be fair, meaningful, and continuous.
And I think lastly is that we can agree that the evaluation is holistic, systematic, and it's important to plan classes, to improve the way the teacher has methods to apply, so can help students learn better. So maybe it was really pleasant. It was delightful to talk with you because you had really nice experiences and opinions that were really important. So I think it was dynamic as well.
Okay, guys, I think this could be everything for today. See you in the next chapter. Bye.